New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Global Focus Today. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnson, and today's guest is one of my favorite people on the face of the earth. I know I say that every week, but that's because I'm really lucky. This is Reverend Dr. Michele Wadleigh. She's an inspiring and exciting coach. She's a teacher. She's a speaker. She facilitates workshops and retreats, and she's leading a ministry. She co-hosts a podcast on the New Thought Media Network called Radical Optimism. Now there's a concept. She spent years developing her courses in forgiveness and shadow work and perfecting her unique approach with working with individuals. It's called the Radical Release Method. She's the author of several books: Forgiveness, A Path to Promise, A Way of Life, Prosperous Me, 40 Days to Freedom, A Lenten Practice for the Modern Mind, and May Silence Be Your Guide. And she's got a new one coming out very soon that we'll be talking about just a little bit later. Her focus as a teacher is empowering others for their own spiritual and emotional liberation. And she brings a wealth of experience from having helped thousands of people to experience great transformation in their lives. Please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Michele Wadleigh from the Planned Happiness Institute. Yay! Thank you so much for saying yes to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm always available. I mean, I'm always willing to be available when I can be. And I'm laughing behind the scenes. Just to let you know, that podcast hasn't actually started yet. I just realized the bio I sent you was one to be used on the book cover for the next book. So it was written in advance. And we have changed the name of it. So y'all listening, you're going to have to come and visit with me in January. And my partner, her name is Kathy Duca. And Kathy is a psychotherapist with 30 years experience, I think 30 years. And I've been doing what I've been doing. Well, been doing metaphysics my whole life. But as a religious science minister, it's been about 25 years, I guess, ish. And so we're bringing the podcast together, and it's going to be called Psycho Spirituality. Part psycho, part spiritual. And it's going to be on Sunday nights at 9:00. And yeah, I know you can laugh. It's supposed to be funny.
I'm sorry. I have this picture of Scream.
Yeah. We're joking because the funny thing is she's this petite, beautiful, like healthy looking, petite little thing. Although we're similar age. I forget who's older, but she's a tiny little thing, and much shorter than me. And I'm kind of a full-bodied woman after having 3 kids and, well, not taking care of myself probably as much as I should have, let's be honest. But we have these, it's almost like I'm the bigger personality. I should be the psycho one and she should be the spiritual one. So we're going to have fun. And
I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, the point is to take, because even Ernest Holmes, he was a true believer in the psychological side of metaphysics. And so we want to bring the world of metaphysics, with all kidding aside, and the world of psychology together in one place. And we'll come up with different, we have a whole 3/4 of a year of topics already set up. We've been brainstorming and getting photo shoots, like really, really ready to dive in and bring something to the public that we think is slightly unique from what's out there. So that's what we're hoping to do. But
well, I think that sounds wonderful, because I've always thought that science and science of mind, same thing, quantum physics and psychology and spirituality. You put those in a bowl, you stir, you scoop it out, boom, you got truth.
And I said on Sunday to my congregation, I said, science, they think they're so smart, but they're just now catching up and they're just catching up and explaining what we have known for, forever and ever. Does it make what we do more valid? I'm going to say no. But it will satisfy a category of people that won't be satisfied when we use words like faith and words like conviction. So now they have their scientific terms and their quantum theories and all of that stuff, which I think is fascinating. I can get the cursory understanding. It's when they go into the deep dive of the explanation that I start to get a little bit like, my eyes roll around and back.
Well, Einstein did say, if you're not confused by quantum physics, then you don't understand quantum physics.
Oh, well, there you go. It's funny. I was just on the phone this morning on a Zoom call with somebody, and behind her on the wall, it said, if a messy desk is a reflection of a messy mind, what does an empty desk reflect? And that's funny. And that's another Einstein quote. That's why I'm bringing it up. I had never seen that one.
I love it. So I know that you are probably one of the reasons you're one of my favorite people is because we have this in common, that you are never just doing one thing. You are always juggling a chainsaw, a bowling ball, and a raw egg. And so I want to talk about those 3 items in your juggle just about to get started today. And the first one is, you got a new book coming out, and I promised you'd tell us the title.
Yeah, well, I'm not we haven't settled on the title yet, but it's about shadow work, and it'll be another workbook fashion like my forgiveness book. But the reason why I don't know the name of it yet, because I've been contracted to write the book, so the publishing company, it's not just me, it's their input. And since they know what they're doing, I'm going to trust them, because McMartin Press, St. Martin's Press, excuse me, St. Martin's Press, that's part of Macmillan and Rand. I think they know what they're talking about. So,
can you give us a hint when it'll be out?
Sorry?
I said, can you give us an idea when it'll be, when we'll know what it's called, because we can buy it?
October of next year. And that's on the fast track, because it takes quite a while to get into the whole. When you're going through a publishing company like this, they have a lot of bells and whistles and hoops, not that I have to jump through, but they have to jump through to coordinate the whole thing. But they asked me to write this book because they knew I had some work done on it already, and because there's an uptick in interest in the public eye around shadow work. And so they wanted to get on board and present something, and I'm thrilled that I was the one asked. They
probably talked to someone who attended your Dancing with the Shadow. And
no, well, actually, it was my staff minister, but he, it's not like that's ever guaranteed me anything before. Yeah, I mean, and I do. I've run interference for him many times, because as soon as somebody knows you're a publisher, everybody wants your attention, and he doesn't work it that way. It gets hard, because people are hitting him up left and right when he goes to conferences. So I've always been like that, the running interference, and so to speak. And then so when he turned and asked me, because he knew of my interest, and he had seen a start of the document from about 4 years ago, that sat in the back of his head. So when he had this conversation with his company, he says, I know somebody. And so I'm thrilled. I'm just,
I know that's where serendipity is, the illusion of things happening coincidentally.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I'm happy I'm happy with my self-published books. And my last book, the forgiveness book, I'm very happy. I feel very, very good about that book. But there's something about getting a contract.
Yeah, I've been there. I understand that one. And I mentioned the class from a while back about Dancing with the Shadows, but you have a new class starting up, don't you?
I have a new forgiveness course starting this Thursday. It's starting this Thursday, and you have a link.
It's online or only in person?
Online. Yeah. I mean, once, and if we could put that link up on the thank you, lovely Fiona. Wait. Oh yeah, it's hard. I gotta tell you, getting used to doing things online is good. It's fine. And I'm very committed to keeping my classes online. So people, because I have people from all around the country and Canada and such. So it's a good thing. But I admit to the fact that there is something that happens when we're rubbing elbows. And I do miss that part of it. Now I'm doing it. I'm going to keep doing it because I want the message to get out. I want the message to get out more than I want to have the experience the way I want it. Oh, this is the book for those of you who might not have ever seen it. Forgiveness: A Path of Promise and a Way of Life. And
so tell us about the format and the content and the length and all of that stuff about this.
It's not this big. I'm teasing. It's written in the form of a workbook, so you move slowly through understanding the principles. And it is definitely a spiritually founded book, founded in spirituality, grounded in metaphysics, for sure. And because what I know is that with what we call spiritual mind treatment, we can call it prayer, you can call it affirmative prayer. I call it mind shifts in the book, because what I know about that is that when we have that as a spiritual practice, the words that we speak sink into us in a way that nothing else does. And the vibration that gets released when you generate that love in the form of prayer is more powerful than anything. And it takes care of things in ways that we can't think our way through. So yeah, it's and I've watched people's lives change. I think some people give up on it too soon. I think that I think it's really important that anyone practicing forgiveness realize that it is a lifetime. It's a lifetime practice. Now, the bulk of it, the stuff that causes the maximum amount of pain, that you can get rid of that. You can handle that and soften that to where you're almost not aware of it. But without a commitment, a lifetime commitment, something new can come up and still be in your way. And so I just want to keep this in the face of, I want to be in the face of the world. I want them to keep trying and to keep doing it. And master teachers, mystical teachers, yogis, gurus, even just great motivational speakers, great ministers, people who have had fantastical, what seems like miraculous healings. At the foundation of a lot of that has been forgiveness. I mean, some of the chaos that goes on in the world. I'm sorry, I know I just cut you off.
That's okay.
I just wanted to finish this point that, and I always go to now there's many other horrors. Please don't, if anyone's listening, don't think that I'm unaware that there aren't more horrors in the world. But I go back to Rwanda and the genocide in Rwanda, and I go back to that one especially because it was neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, family member to family member, just convinced of lies, and then cutting people down, women, children, men, literally cutting them down. How do you get over that? How do you survive after something like that? And they have. And not only have they survived it, they've done it magically. And they are committed to a practice of, they're committed to a practice of reconciliation. That is so beautiful. These people that were harmed, so like true victims, were asked to have conversations with the perpetrators. And they did. And healing happens. That, yeah. It's just, I think that, yeah.
Well, I can't disagree with anything you're saying, because it seems to me that that's the proof that forgiveness is not outwardly directed, but inwardly directed, and that it is in fact a form of self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm getting a little bit more clear that the forgiveness doesn't imply you have to walk around acting like, you don't have to act like a Buddha or a guru. You could still be very much, in my example, very much a loudmouth cussing Jersey girl, right? But practice the forgiveness work. You don't have to suddenly give up your sass or your feistiness. And giving and forgiveness is never about condoning. It is never about condoning, but it is about the toxic waste that you carry in your mind and heart. And without some kind of forgiveness practice, ritual, something, that toxicity lives inside of you. And so my desire is just that people know that they have this option, So I know I cut you off before. Was there something else you wanted?
No, I just wanted to point out the self-care issue aspect of forgiveness, because that was the key for me.
Mm-hmm.
Was recognizing, you can say you don't forgive the other person, you forgive for yourself till you're blue in the face. But until you realize that is a necessary component of self-care, it doesn't even go in one ear and out the other. It just goes right over the top of your head. So I wanted to be sure that got into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, if we're good with the class, I want to hear about the retreat that's coming up.
Well, I'm very thrilled. It's a new place that I'm going to, and a community. It's run by Barbara Fewitt, who is a wonderful, beautiful, delightful practitioner. And she has a teaching chapter. I get the designations a little confused. She has a teaching chapter for CSL that's in the south coast of Rhode Island, but we are going to be in Massachusetts on the seaport. That's enough. That's enough said for me. But then in addition to that, it's a cold wake. It's a awaken your soul. And so we do have a link for that too, I believe. And so awaken your soul. Thank you. As a matter of fact, if you could drop that in the chat so it goes out to the Facebook family, that'd be great. The point of the retreat is to have people feel safe as they can allow themselves to feel within our setting, to help them loosen off some of the weight of what they're carrying around if they haven't retreated for a while, and then to reset. I'm never one to give a bunch of false promises about a weekend healing anybody, but I will always make a promise that we will disturb you enough that when you leave, as all those parts come back together, they do come back in greater order. The same thing when, I don't know about you, but when I clean my house, before the cleaning is done, it looks like you walk in and go, what the heck happened, right? It's because I've disturbed everything that I'm cleaning. And that's kind of what happens on this road of awakening. You don't get, everybody wants to have enlightenment on their goal. You don't get there without walking through the muck and the mire without it. And even if your life is relatively calm and everything's in order, you're never free of needing to at least be conscious of or think your way through some of life's simpler challenges. And I don't care what age you are. There's a lot of I pay a lot of attention to the what's going on in the different generations and some of the conversations. And I walk around pretty amused by some of the commentary and reading the comments that people have of, people like you and I of our age. And I have never seen such gross ageism in all my life. But it's fascinating to me. And I think that there's still this misconception when people are young and they haven't really been beat up yet, that life is going to be this easy. And people think because they're being spiritual, life is going to be easy. I don't know. I don't see it that way. I think life is hard. And we're fortunate if we can use what we learn to at least navigate the choppy waters. That's what it is, to navigate, just to navigate those choppy waters. That's the best thing that, we could do. And be prepared for that. Be prepared. I just want to.
So I'm thinking that what you can promise from your retreat is that they'll at least be able to recognize that they are choppy waters and that they are navigable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even I was in my grandson's school yesterday. I was helping to carve a pumpkin. That's one of the glories of being right next to them. And so we're in there, and what happened was the teacher is telling to the second graders. So she's trying to teach them how to be considerate. She says to them, now class, remember that the first graders aren't doing the pumpkins. So let's be sensitive to that. Now, basically what she's saying is we're doing something they can't do. Don't make them feel better. I mean, don't make them feel worse, right? That's kind of what she was saying. I thought to myself, do we want to teach people how to walk on eggs, or do we want to teach people how to handle? Two different focuses. Now, I'm all about teaching children how to read a room, how to understand the nuances. Absolutely. With me and my grandkids' life, I'm all over it. But I also think we have to teach them that no one can harm them in verbally in that way. And that if they don't like that something's going on, and in their circle, it's not for the person to stop as long as there's no harm. It is for me to learn how to handle it. I'm saying to my grandchildren all the time, let it go, not yours. Don't pick it up. If one sibling's bothering the other. But so. Do you understand? I think we'd be stronger if we teach our children give our children the skills to actually handle their upset and their disappointments, rather than trying to make the world fit around them. Just my little.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. It's a much more valuable skill to be able to explain to that first grader that, first year in the first grade, and then you're in the second grade, and next year you'll be in the second grade, and you'll get to do this, and it'll be safer for you to do it then, because they want you to hurt yourself. And that is, I guess, a way of being sensitive to them. It's just how to present it in a way that is respectful of the person who's speaking and the person who's being spoken to.
Well, see, part of this is I'd like to see them say, if the first graders see you, say to them, you'll get this next year.
Yeah.
You'll get it next year. And there's that enthusiasm, that uplifting thing, but not so much about, oh, I'm sorry for you. You don't get it. It's okay.
Yeah. And
I think that's taking a message, but the truth is, I'm glad it's happening. it's a good thing. So I'm picking on it a little bit, but just to strike a point, that I'm grateful that there's character, lessons of character in that school.
And that's what I was getting ready to point out, is that you might not be real happy with the way she expressed it, but isn't it wonderful that she at least cares and wants them to care about the fact that they might seem entitled to the first grade.
Right.
And that, that can, you got to get your foot in the door somehow,
Yeah. And I think, for as parents and conscious grandparents, we have a job to do. We have a job, and our job is to bring conscious conversation. It is to bring conscious conversation to our children and to our families, and pull them up in their emotional health and maturity by modeling what that's supposed to look like. For me, that's why the forgiveness work. That's why the shadow work. That's why, because the healthier I am as a human, then my legacy is healthier, and we have to realize that we have a legacy, and we're the ones who can have our legacy be loving and powerful or filled with pain,
So, you said in your discussion of your grandkids that you told one of them not to pick up the rock.
Yeah.
That's a phrase I use too, because it's in our society, everybody's walking around with a gunny sack on their shoulder full of rocks that they've picked up along the way, and they're toting around with them. And I have given people the exercise before to get a gunny sack, and a small one, fill it with rocks, and take it out in the country someplace, and take a rock out of the bag and look at the rock and say what that rock might represent, and then say, I forgive you, I love you, I release you, and then throw it as far as they can throw it. By the time you've done that with a potato sack full of rocks, you've kind of got the idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, children absolutely love that exercise.
Yeah.
Adults feel a little silly starting, but children absolutely love the idea of blasting rocks and slinging them as far as they can.
Right.
So I can see, I hear what you're saying. So what would you see as the biggest challenge that somebody might encounter coming into your retreat this weekend? I'm going to ask you for the flip side after that, right?
Well, I had a woman who was supposed to come to the last retreat and backed out the last minute. And the comment she made to me was, I didn't think I could take that much love. Wow. Now, she hadn't been there to know that, and it would have been intense. And if that amount of love was butt up against her limiting belief, that would have happened. But for me, I think that, and then of course, COVID exaggerated what I'm about to say. I think we're not trained on how to let love in. I think we don't know how to let love in. And I do sometimes think we don't always trust it. Some of us have learned not to trust it for good reason, hence forgiveness work. But it can't, if you've been walking around unconscious, a boatload, a download of unconditional love can be rattling, because it suddenly draws you to realize that you've been walking around cold or unavailable. And if you don't know how to handle that space in between, you'll judge yourself. So for me, it's a reset. I want people come and to remember I want them to remember their self-worth and and not learn. They're not going to learn anything new, but they're going to remember who they are, remember to whom they belong, and to get a little sense that little bit like when you're a kid and you just, as children, not all children, and I know there's children that can't get there for reasons, but the lighthearted ones that walk around in a dream world, just thinking all of life is going to be good. At some point, for many of us, that stops. And unless we're conscious, we don't get back to it. And so, any retreat I facilitate is to provide this experience of being seen without being threatened, of being heard but without expectation of what you say. It is about being as unconditionally accepting as possible. And we'll do meditation and spiritual practices. And we have this beautiful young woman doing body movement. I can't remember what she calls it, but it's dancing to heal, dancing for expression and to heal. And we'll have Tibetan bowls and sounds, and so it's going to be a very, very immersive experience into the expansion of self.
So what you're telling me is that the biggest challenge is also the most magnificent opportunity for growth and experience that's going to come out of that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I live with that. I like that.
Yeah, because it is my theory. I have no way of proving this unless it's been studied somewhere already. But I've witnessed the reality that if you can create a safe enough container, people automatically grow. They automatically grow. There's the automatic like opening and revelation as long as they feel safe enough, because most of us don't let ourselves out because we carry an abundance of shame, guilt, self-condemnation. And so because we haven't learned we don't have to, we walk around and we're functioning on top of this dysfunction, right? You know what I mean? So, but they see that they're function, so they think they're okay, but they don't know what's going on under here. And so when you can lower, I don't want to say lower, when you can create a container that's safe, that people can lower their guard and lower their guard and lower their guard and let love in, a lot can happen. A lot can happen. And you can do that without even trying to do it. You can do that by just being so present for someone, because we live in a society. We don't know how to listen to each other. Not nobody. I don't want to do extremes. I mean, there are a lot of trainings about listening, and a lot of, matter of fact, in January, I'm going to start a monthly group for all ministers. Limits 10 groups, 10 people at a time. And it's about sacred listening, especially because people who are spiritual leaders, it's a job so unique, no one else can understand. And so, I want to create a safe place that ministers can go to and go, phew, because they'll be more valuable. We're each more valuable when we're whole, when we're happy, when we're peaceful, right? And so I want to be part of that solution for them, if at all possible. And that's for any kind of ministers. That's not just CSL, Unity, Christian churches. I don't care. If they need to feel safe and heard, this will be the place for them to go.
That's just the most perfect segue into my 4 questions. Because I have questions I ask everybody, every guest. And even when they come back again, as you have, because you're not the same person who was here last time. So the answers won't be the same answers. And that's worth doing. So here's the first one. How does what you're doing with your books and your classes and your retreats, how does all of that encourage, enhance, explore, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
I bring in, in all the work that I do and have always done, I have always been one to marry the mystical with the pragmatic. Always. And so what I know is that any human, any spiritual leader, any teacher, any therapist, and I mentioned this category of people, anyone, especially if you have and I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion, a following. Let's say, I was going to say followers, but if you have a following where people want, you're the juice to someone's day, then then those of us who have the luxury of being listened to, have a responsibility to stay whole and healthy, and that means emotionally. If we've been given the right to influence, then we better take the responsibility to clean up our stuff on a regular basis. And I believe that I've watched people change and transform in these courses, and even ministers. I've had the luxury now of having minister-only courses. It's a new thing I added to my programming, and I'm just watching people, ministers, people who know, people who've done, but watch them while given the opportunity to be loved, watching them blossom. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a good start. It's different from the last one, and I like that. Okay, here's the next question. It sounds like the same one, but it's a little bit different. How does what you do with your classes and your retreats and your books and who you are and how you be, how does that impact, unveil, reveal, promote world peace?
Yeah, it is partially the same. It is, of course. But the one thing you said now that you didn't say before, part of the question now was how is it that even I be? How do I be? That makes a difference. I've always been. This is going to sound twisted. So if you're listening, just pay attention. I mean, just bear with me for a second. I've always been. I think I've always been transparent. Yet I do know that there was a measure that I hold on to. I like to be as authentic as I can. I never wanted to pretend to be something I wasn't. And my soul needed me. I needed to expect to be loved for who I was, not for who anyone wanted me to be. And that's starting to happen more and more. I missed doing the podcast that I did for 6 months with my partner, Alan Vukas. Alan and I were working through the global themes, and life changed, so it just wasn't workable anymore. But what happened was, because of the global themes, which in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the year, I thought were brilliant. Because we were doing the global themes and then we were breaking it down with each other on the show, I started to shift in things inside of me in ways that I hadn't in a while. And I got to tell you, I am really moving toward always speaking my mind, like really speaking my mind. And the reason why I say that, and in both of my books, my forgiveness and my shadow book that's coming out, I speak about our addictions to being nice and being liked. And I really think those addictions are dangerous. They cause us to not be us. If I am denying my opinion or afraid to share it because I don't want to hurt your feelings, I'm denying my true experience. Now, can I talk to you without condemning you? Of course. Right. We could do that. But the fact is that we don't. I think there are so many lies in the world. The lies exist And they and our shadows are big, both individually and collectively. They're big because we lie. And what I mean by lying this time, of course, there are people who do lie, but even when we lie to ourselves, when we lie to ourselves about ourselves, we're not practicing good care for ourselves. We are not honoring. I mean, we're not honoring the essence of our being, and not allowing the intelligence that wants to create through us. We're not allowing it out. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't. I saw this video the other day. Woody Harrelson. Never used to like him, but I've grown to love him, and he's really become such a talent, such a fount of talent. And he did a Facebook, or I don't know where it was, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, one of those. And he said he gets on his messages: if you do not want to eat GMOs and you don't want to eat chemically altered foods, don't buy them. But he wasn't being sarcastic. He was saying, spend your dollars, vote with your dollars, that we have power. And I think if this planet is not going to devolve into a wasteland, it's going to be because we took responsibility and we started to speak from an authentic place and stop. I care about your feelings. But when I care about your feelings enough to deny myself and lie to myself and act like I'm different than what I am, I'm adding to the toxicity of the planet. I'm adding to the shadow of the planet. And the truth is, while things might hurt that I hear, I'd rather hear it and transform from it than avoid it. And I think going forward, this planet needs a boatload of highly authentic people committed to being their soul. Committed to being their soul.
Okay. All right. Next question. I'm not going to close your eyes for this one because you're going to have to imagine. 10 years from now, presuming that every single detail of your life goes exactly the way you want it to go, every relationship, every encounter, every event, every activity, everything goes exactly the way you want it to go. What does Michele Wadleigh and Planned Happiness Institute look like?
A large ranch home on a lake or in a mountain near a creek. There has to be running water, with 3 or 4 rooms dedicated to the Planned Happiness Institute, to our offices where we function. Still living close enough to my family, because for me, family is everything. I will have written more than those books by that time, and I will have been, have been on podcasts and gathered, because Planned Happiness Institute, its intention is to have original material, but then curated material and material from other teachers. It's not about being a me. It's about collaboration. And so I want it to be a source of information, a source of comfort, a source of education, a source of emotional intelligence, training, coaches, but that lives with that, and that the flow through the organization, that we are a meaningful influence to the world around us. And I get to slow down a little bit and just barely participate. That's what I would see 10 years from now. Sharri,
Okay.
Sharri, you're frozen. Do you know that? Okay.
You for a second. Am I good now? Am I back?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
pixelated. Yeah.
You froze for a second too. Okay, so here's the last question. Will you come back?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right. First opening I have is September 24th of next year. Can I plug in?
Are you serious? Of next year?
Yes, ma'am. Next year.
I
That's because I don't let anybody get away without booking them for their next visit.
I'm sure you'll just have to send me an email.
I will. About 10 days before, you'll get the same email.
No, I mean now. So you remember. So I remember. Put on the calendar for next year. My son's getting married next year in October. The book is coming out. The book should be out in October, and my son's getting married in October. So that's going to be a really interesting time for me.
You'll have a lot to talk about.
Yes. Well, September will be just prior to, but if you want to go a little later in the year, then I'll have more things to talk about.
It's up to you. If you want to pick a later date, let me know which one.
Because then I'll possibly have the book out. We could go a year from now, or whatever's that.
Okay, let's see. That would be. How about that? That's the 29th of October.
Okay. 2024. There you go. Well, my publisher will be happy to know that I've already booked a date to talk about my book.
Cool beans. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a delight and an honor. And please, people, come next week. Next week, we got a twofer. We have Steve and Abigail Albert. They're talking about their interfaith activities, and it's really exciting. They have books and they have all kinds of cool stuff.
Are those the people from England?
Nope, they're in California.
Oh, okay. Good, cool.
So,
Sharri, thank you for having me. Robert, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming, and everybody, we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Okay. Be well.
Happy Halloween.
What?
Happy Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween. Yeah, I have to go buy candy. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing